Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. In the last part we started off the third tier of levels if I recall correctly, and now we're in Sewer later, our second sewer level, and one of the more annoying ones to speedrun, but I don't think this is the one that's the worst off the top of my head. It's up there though. Now that enemy I just killed, they kill you by spouting fire at you, and the interesting thing about the deaths via the burning animation in Crash 2, and I think Crash 3 has this exact same quirk, is that for a split second, you can see yourself turn into Crash's Crash 1 model during the burning animation. And it's not like a blinker you miss it, well I guess it technically is. It's something you can very easily see if you're paying attention. Either way, here's the yellow gem pathway that we got. I think we got the yellow gem last part? Maybe 2 parts ago, I forget. But either way, this is another case where I actually recommend only getting the gem and then just taking a death so you can go back to the main pathway, because I believe at the end of this pathway, if you're not taken through the rest of the level, you're just taken to an exit. And, well, we still need to get all the boxes, so we're just gonna head on back to that previous checkpoint. But yeah, you can actually see us turn into the Crash 1 model there. Either way, the gold relic time for this stage, by the way, is 41 seconds and 29 hundredths. And here's an interesting thing. This is actually the only level, at least the only sewer level in the game, rather, that doesn't have the wire mesh you have to climb on. However, it does introduce the fans that you have to kind of carefully slide under, and it's all sorts of nerve-wracking. Now, I do think this is not the hardest out of the sewer levels to do the relic time on. I do think the third one we'll see later on is the worst with that, but this one certainly has its annoyances thanks to these fans. I think the way you're supposed to do it for the gold relic is just take a hit with an Aku Aku, but still. Now, what you see me doing here is me thinking of something else entirely, honestly. For some reason, I was thinking in this level that when you went through the bonus pathway, it brought you out at a different point than when you entered, and thus I had to go and get those boxes now, otherwise I would have to go back and get them later. I might have even been thinking of the yellow gem route now that I think about it, so that's just me screwing something up, I'll be honest. Now, I've done it at this point in recording at least several times rather, because I just recorded each level on a level-per-level basis, and I needed to, you know, get out of the level in order to start it. Something that this game allows you to do, unlike Crash 1, is when you pause the game, you can just press the exit level command to go back to the warp room. However, leftover from Crash 1 is actually the old way of leaving levels, where if you press select on the pause screen. Crash 3 leaves that over as well, which is just kind of interesting to me. I think that was removed in Insane. That sounds like something Insane would do. But I guess that's notable. Honestly, on the whole, this level always kind of struck me as the most standard for some reason out of Tier 3. I can't exactly place why. Maybe it's just because that compared to what came before and what came after it doesn't really feel that remarkable in the levels. And now I think about it, given that this is, I think, the third level in Tier 3, it's basically in the exact middle of the game, so I guess it's just not that memorable to begin with. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of, actually. It was the yellow gem pathway that brings you out here. So yeah, that's why you kill yourself during the gem route. Well, good to see I have resolved that mental, question. Alright, now, what you have to do here is kind of strange. You have to go to the right and hit the 2 detonator crates. Not only to get rid of the nitros, but to also cause some boxes to spawn elsewhere, namely in the room with the crystals, because similarly to the first sewer level, we need to head left at the fork to actually find the crystal. Still a little bit annoying, but, oh well. Now, something I always have trouble remembering is what platforms sink in these levels, because some of the platforms in the water sink after you've stood on them for too long, and I know it's not every single one, but I can never remember which ones actually do. Which, I guess, goes to show that you can't always know everything about the games you love, even though speedrunners probably do. But I'm no speedrunner. Like I think I've said before, the only games I have speedrun gone fast in intentionally are probably Zero Mission and Mega Man 03, just because I've played those games to death, and even then I'm nowhere near record pace with those. Either way, that's sooner or later. It's a level that most certainly exists. Now, something that's a bit weird is that it doesn't look like there's actually a slot for the second clear gem in this level, which I always found a bit odd. Especially because knowing the next level has something a bit interesting when it comes to that.
goodness! I hacked into Cortex's computer and found detailed schematics for an improved Cortex vortex and a suspicious-looking space station. I'm not sure what Cortex might be trying...
Trying what? Coco? Oh well. Either way, it's time for our next level, Bear Down. Now, the interesting thing about this level is that, if I'm recalling correctly, this level in the coding actually has a second clear gem slot, despite only having one clear gem, which makes me think that at some point there was intended to be a second gem here somehow, but not the case. Either way, as the name would imply, it's another level where we play Polar, and I love the way this level looks in all versions of the game. I always like the idea of snowy areas during like sunrise or sunset with like all the pink and orangey hues on them. I love this level. The purple and pink. Treat to my eyes. Either way, this level has 42 boxes to find, gold relic time of 49 seconds and 85 hundredths. And an interesting thing about this level, aside from obviously the name being based off the term man down, is that I think in the PAL version, from what I'm recalling, there's a delay to the music starting for some reason. And I don't know why. Either way, these lab assistants carrying a bunch of iron blocks. They obviously, you die if you run into either them or the boxes. Now, the way I recommend trying to dodge them is keeping your eye forward and noting which action they did last. Because usually, by the time you get to them, they'll be doing their next action. There's only one of those pairs that likes to be a rebel, and it's those ones. I always feel like they should raise their box. I always die to that every single time I play the game. Because it feels like they should raise the box by then. Now, the only other theory I could have as to where that second clear gem this level was supposed to have at one point is coming up here at the end of the level. Because you might have noticed there's obviously nitro crates, so we're going to need to use a nitro detonator at the end there. But notice all the ice blocks and another standard snow platform in the middle. What do you say we investigate that once we get the gem of this level? And place myself carefully. Jump. Jump. Oh, God, don't drown. Jump. Oh, boy. And secret warp. Welcome back to the 6th warp room. And my theory is that maybe at one point that was supposed to warp you to a secret route in the level, but they went here. Oh, boy. We're heading back to Air Crash again. Yeah, it's time we finally got the box gem for that level. And it's a bit of an interesting time, this one, because it's something I like about Air Crash, I guess, despite it being the level we have to visit the most for 100%, is that if you play this level in the way I play, you're always doing something new in the level. The first playthrough, you're getting the secret exit. The second playthrough, you're going through the death route. And the third level, the third time through, not only do we get to see the secret area like this, which I think has 20-something boxes? It's somewhere around there. It also has the nitro detonator, if I'm recalling correctly. This third playthrough also allows us to actually see the end of the level as it should be, aside from the death route ending. They really like to get silly with their nitro placements here, though. Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay, there we go. And with that, we're done with the secret route. Time to head back to the main level. And as usual, we're speeding up the main portion. I know I mentioned it before, but I really like the Hang 8 remix in this N.Gin trilogy, because the guitar feels so much more authentic to what it should be for this kind of level. The kind of like surfers, whoa, dude-ness. You know what I mean, right? 90s extreme style. Plus, this is just a really kick-ass song on the whole, no matter what version you're playing. Now, the level as we've seen thus far for getting all the boxes actually isn't that bad. The only really annoying one is this one right here, because, especially in N.Gin trilogy, the depth perception there can be a bit annoying. And now we're heading back to normal speed because we have a good amount of level to see now. After we get rid of these 7 boxes, that is. Wait, did those boxes kill the plant? That's not how it's supposed to be, but okay. And I just screwed up, actually. You're supposed to jump to that platform by using a slide jump to get to those boxes. However, notice how you jump when you get hit by a mine and you have an Aku Aku? I think I even mentioned that when we were in this stage last. We can use that to our advantage to get up here. It looks all sorts of silly, but if it works, if it's stupid and it works, then it ain't stupid, right? We're actually coming up on probably the hardest jump in the level, at least during the surfboard sections. because there are two mines patrolling in opposite ways here, and for some reason, I can never remember the timing to get that jump and survive. But first, I should probably show you how you're supposed to do that. Just slide jump from area to area. The spin jump helps in this case, though, for a fact. And, oh boy. There we go. Oh, safe and dandy. 62 lives. Crash 2 is very forgiving with lives, as with Crash 1, but I think Crash 1 was a lot more forgiving with lives than Crash 2. Because usually I can max out on lives in a casual playthrough of Crash 1 maybe by the beginning of the third island, which is like the last third of the game. In this game, I can only get it maybe in the last fifth or sixth. But hey, that's Air Crash all done and dandy. And with that, I think we're completely done with the second tier of levels from my memory. Wait, are we? I can't remember. Either way, it's time for us to continue on in Tier 3 with Road to Ruin. This is actually my favorite stage aesthetic in the game, which is odd because it's the most Crash 1-like, aside from the jungles. We are in temple areas again. Thankfully, they're nowhere near as long as the Sunset Vista such levels. Ugh. Either way, Road to Ruin, we actually cannot get the box gem here yet because reasons. It requires going along a different route that we can't do at the moment without doing some jumps that are not meant to be doable. But you do want to be safe in this stage, though, because there is a death route for us to take advantage of. Though me taking the death route makes me forget to actually get the crystal on my first run through, so I actually had to do this level twice. And the death route is right here. In terms of the amount of boxes in the stage, there are 89, 13 of which are in the bonus. And there's a good amount in the secret route, I think close to 30-something? And the gold relic time for the stage is 51 seconds and 78 hundredths. During the death route, and actually this is more of a stage aesthetic gimmick than just the stage gimmick, these apes love to throw logs at you, and they are surprisingly tricky to dodge. The only way I can really figure out how to dodge them without using the Z-axis to my advantage is when they make contact with the ground on the next block over. Doing them horizontally isn't too bad, but when they eventually start throwing these at you from the front, it gets annoying, because depth perception is not the best in the Crash series. It's better than Crash 2 and 3 than it was in Crash 1, but still. You do want to be careful with these platforms, though, because they are slightly slippery, because you can actually see me sliding around, and that was amplified in the Insane Trilogy. Because I feel like you can actually slide off of them in the Insane Trilogy, at least much more easily. Also notable, this level's name is in fact a reference to the Ramones album from '78, so if you're a Ramones fan, no, that's not just you thinking too hard. Now, I'm trying to remember how the relic run for this level works in Insane Trilogy. I recall all of the Ruin-themed stages in this game being annoying. In fact, no. All the Ruin-themed stages in Insane Trilogy were hard to get relics in. I'm looking at you, Sunset Vista! But I recall these not being the worst. Maybe the second level of this was kind of annoying. I don't recall this one giving me too much trouble. I think those fire-breathing gorillas ahead of me were actually the most annoying thing to me for some reason. Of course, mind you, the relic runs are meant to be more annoying to begin with because you don't get checkpoints, and Aku Akus are existent, but much rarer, if I recall correctly. I can always replay it when it comes out on Switch. I think next month, my time? Yeah, I'll probably get it. I'd like to show my support. Maybe get a new Crash game later down the road. We probably will. How by the time this is uploaded, we may actually have one be announced. I know that was the case with Mega Man 9, where apparently Mega Man 11... well, not apparently. Mega Man 11 was announced not even a month after I recorded the damn game. I'm so happy that's happening. And then you got the Spyro Reignited Trilogy happening, which I'm probably going to get, because this might actually become as a surprise to some people, but I actually didn't play much Spyro growing up. My Spyro games were the GBA season titles, which aren't the best, even though I enjoyed them back then. And one of them on the GameCube. I know I actually own Season of the Dragonfly as well, but that wasn't the one I grew up with. I think it's like Hero's Tale? I like it. I have a lot of structural issues with it, but I liked it. I also played, I think it was one of the ones on the Wii, the one that had, the first one that introduced the female dragon during that weird, more serious trilogy. That was a thing. But yeah, I missed the crystal, so I actually need to go back into that stage. And what sucks is I actually could have gotten it too. I just would have had to, from the place where the death route took me out, backtracked a little bit past these two platforms to get it. I would have probably had to take a death because these platforms will fall when you step on them, but wouldn't matter that much. Plus, I think there's a checkpoint not too far ahead of here, so I probably could have made it work. So now that I got the crystal, I'm just going to cut on out of the level so we can, you know, get it. Also, I believe I mentioned in part 1, but you cannot progress to the boss of a certain level tier until you get all 5 crystals. And now already it's time for another bear-themed stage, Unbearable. This is one of the worst levels to get a relic in N.Gin Trilogy. Why? Just because the level design, or at least the mines, are very annoying, because it's another chase level, except instead of a boulder, it's a bear this time around. And notable, if you die, the bear laughs. Which is funny to me. Either way, this stage has 58 boxes, 12 of which are in the bonus. And the relic time, I think it's like a minute 35, something. That sounds about right. It was hell to get, so you'd think I'd remember, but no, I tried to block some of the more annoying stage to get relics in out of my memory. Don't even get me started on the relic in the DLC level for Crash 1 in N.Gin Trilogy. Though I actually really grew to like that level by the end when I was playing it normally, because there's actually some really good platforming timing. Now, if only the relic was not annoying. These salamanders kill me more than I'd like to admit. In fact, you even see it right there. I don't know why. Either way, notice something. The bear didn't break all the wood. That's supposed to be a sign, especially the fact that you hear it make a thud sound, that there's a secret route down here. 23 of the level's boxes are down here. And this is a very annoying route purely for these lab assistants with guns. The assistants themselves are easy to kill. It's the bullets they fire that I have a hell of a time dodging for some reason. Doesn't seem so bad right now, but eventually they start pairing it up with enemies you have to dodge around, like both varieties of turtles and, I remembered I mentioned a armored armadillo, not the Mega Man next boss. I think in part 1 or so, when I mentioned that there was originally plans to have them in that level, they are in this level, and they make dodging these bullets really annoying. Thankfully, there is an abuse you could do with this later on in this exact section. Right here, even, I think it is. Next to the Aku Aku crate, there is a platform. And if you high jump there, as you can see, there's 2 life boxes. I believe you can farm those to get infinite lives. Or at least up to max lives, because I think these boxes respawn with lives in them. So if you want to do it, you can. Because I think these stay one-up boxes no matter what happens. Although I think that was changed in N.Gin Trilogy. Even though it's a polar bear, though, this level does still follow the usual dynamic difficulty changes for the chase levels. If you die enough in a certain section, the polar bear will actively slow down during those. However, unlike most stages, you can't get a pity Aku Aku or change checkpoint just because of how the chase levels are usually structured. This is probably the most annoying section, because if you don't have an Aku Aku to take a hit so you can just rush through it, the slightest hesitation will probably kill you. But that's the secret route done. Obviously, we didn't get every box because we need a Nitro Destroyer, but, you know. Also, wow, that explosion was louder than it probably was meant to be. Also, interesting thing. During the bonus section, that track only plays there, that musical track. I think that makes it the only non-boss level in the game to do that, too, which is interesting. I don't know why, but that always just stuck with me. Now, one thing you do need to be careful of with a lot of the Nitro boxes in the game, particularly when they have boxes on top of them, like I think we saw back in Sewer or Later's bonus, is that them bouncing can actually bounce boxes on top of them up, including if they're other Nitro crates. So you need to be careful with that. However, do keep an eye out for Nitros that look a bit different later on. Call it a hunch, winky face. Now, something that's a bit interesting about this level, though, is that eventually you fall in a pit and die accidentally. But no, eventually in the level, we're treated to something a bit different for the chase levels. And I actually really like what they do because suddenly we get to actually play as Polar. There are still boxes along the way, but I think the mama polar bear or big polar bear, whatever the hell that is in the background, it will break most of them. So more or less, you're just focusing on dodging here, especially these electric gates. However, like with the other electrical gates, you can still run into like their pillars and not get shocked. And eventually, Polar just throws you off almost right into the exit area too. However, if you looked behind us, you may have seen that there was a little outlet of land that we could walk on that looks like it gives us the ability to jump back. Well, with a good time slide jump, we can. And there's a reason for this, because if we walk all the way back to where Polar is, we find ourselves in another level warp. Welcome back to the sixth warp room. Sixth warp room. In the first unique level for the sixth warp room, Totally Bare. Levels unique to this warp room, though, don't have crystals, they only have gems. And Totally Bare, as the name would imply, is our last level where we get to use Polar. And as you can see, it's a level cloaked in darkness. We cannot see anything. The draw distance on the boxes is not good here. You need to take things slowly and make sure you're keeping your eye out, and you need to use the dash jump that I mentioned with the circle button to make sure you get a lot of boxes and even make a lot of jumps in order to live. This is a hard level, I will openly admit, but I actually really like this level just because I like the Polar levels in general. This stage has 40 boxes in it, though it has 38 in the N.Gin trilogy, and the reason for that is eventually there's a bunch of TNT crates next to each other. There is one TNT crate that has like a live box next to it or something. Might actually just be a Wumpa-Fruit box. By the way, you're supposed to jump like that to get through there. But the TNT crate detonates before you even see it and takes the other box out with it. In fact, I'm showing you my number because look, it jumped up from 23 to 25 like that. That TNT box was supposed to be a third one on the left. So, they just removed that because it was redundant, essentially. Because why, if you don't have to worry about it, why have it in the level at all, right? And the gold relic time for the stage is 47 seconds and 36 hundredths. Now, something I noticed about this level is that I think it's one of the 2 levels in the games that doesn't have nitro crates in it. The only one in this game being, I think, the pits. Because even levels like Turtle Woods had them during the bonus sections. Either way, that's Totally Bare. It's hard, but it's a good kind of hard to me, because the darkness is what can really kill you. And that's also tier 3 done. But one thing I should note is that before we get a cutscene with Cortex like we do at the end of every tier, you're going to notice a transition. That's because similarly to the N.Brio cutscene back in tier 1, when I exited Totally Bare so I could record me entering it properly for the level per level recording thing, I had to record this cutscene early.
Crash, my boy, you are more than halfway there. But I'm sure you've noticed that things are getting harder. The last 10 crystals will be the hardest to gather. And my, our enemies will be sending their strongest forces to thwart you. I'll contact you again when you have completed the next one.
Okay, cool. Time for our third boss, which is probably one of the sillier ones, I'll be completely real. Alright, time for us to fight Tiny the Tiger, who I think in the pause menu is accidentally called Taz. The way this fight works, you jump platform to platform and he follows you, direct him onto platforms that have fallen or are about to fall. Notably, he can jump diagonally, but this boss always felt kind of ill-placed to me. Because both Ripperoo is both harder than the Komodo Brothers and this boss, so why put these guys after Ripperoo? I guess it could be because Ripper is the only returning boss from Crash 1's standard bosses, so they wanted to get him out of the way so you could have the new and more interesting bosses supposedly afterwards. But it always came across kind of stilted to me. Notable though, the later you get in the fight, the more platforms drop on either phase of dropping, as well When you kill him, I think every platform aside from one falls, so you need to be a bit careful there. But that's the tier 3 boss down. Nice. I'm actually not sure if you can also skip the dance that happens after boss fights. But with that, we're now in the 4th tier of stages, which has a lot of good stages, but it also has a certain infamous one. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're going to be heading into hanging out and seeing what a lot of tier 4 has for us. See you guys then.